Happy New Year. It's the first Sunday of the year, and it's exciting. Did any of you guys have like Nochebuena parties? Go to a Nochebuena party? I hope so. Anybody do the Caja China thing? Any Caja China people here? No Caja China people? Kevin, you're a Caja. The reason I'm asking is because I want to get to know you. Um, the Caja China thing is like one of my dreams. I want to learn how to like cook a pig in a Caja China. I just feel like, every Cuban man needs to know how to cook a good pig. Can I get an amen? Right? You guys want to see the picture of what I cooked this Christmas Eve? I got a picture of it. I tried my best. It wasn't una caja china, but I tried my best. That was actually a couple years ago. After that, and traumatizing most of my family and my young children at the time, we vowed never to cook a baby pig in. Actually remember like one of my friends, Alex Miranda, looking through the glass. He's like, "Oh, what are you cooking?" I'm like, "Oh, look," and he looks at it. He's like, "Am I really looking at what I'm looking?" He's like, "Does it have blue eyes?" I'm like, but after that year, I decided to just stick with una paleta. You guys know a pork butt. And one of my friends is the chef. And so I called him up and I'm like, "Hey, man, last year I traumatized most of my family. People said they're not coming to Nochebuena if I'm doing that again." And I'm like, "And you're a chef and I've had the pork you cook. Can you just give me your recipe?" And he gave me his recipe and I followed it to a T. I want you to know, those of you that know me, I don't really follow things to the T. I don't do recipes. I kind of like to just figure things out. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. There's a bunch of people coming to my house. They need to eat. I need to feed them. And so I did 2 pork butts. I followed the instructions to the T and it was delicious. Everybody loved it. People are like, "Where did you buy it?" I'm like, "What do you mean where I bought it? I made it. I cooked it." And I did it a few other times, and then I got a smoker. Anybody here have a smoker? I got my man with the smoker. Caja China and a smoker. All right. And so I'm like, this year I have been smoking I've been smoking, and by smoking I'm not into drugs or anything. I was smoking meat, right? And so like short rib, and I was doing anything. I was smoking fish. To the point where one day my wife starts crying at dinner, and I'm like, wow, it must be really good because she's crying. It's like tears coming down her face, and I'm thinking like, wow. I'm like, anything again. I'm tired of it. I don't like the flavor. I don't even think it's healthy for you. We're eating all these carcinogens and stuff. And I'm like, okay. And so I never smoked again. I quit that day, cold turkey. And then one day my kids are like, "Papi, when are you going to smoke again?" And I took the cover off of the thing and it was all rusted. Never smoked again. And so I tried to smoke a pork butt once. Right? And I'm like, hey, I'm smoking all this meat. People love my ribs. They love my wings. They love all this stuff. This was before my wife told me to quit smoking. And the Christmas comes along. I'm like, I'm going to get a really big one. And so I got like the biggest pork butt I ever had seen. And I put it in the smoker and it looked beautiful. It was a perfect color. But I did it my way. I didn't do it the way my friend, the chef, taught me how to make it. And so I actually had people filming. I had people, I'm like, hey, film this. I'm going to post this on YouTube. Literally, I did. I'm just too embarrassed to show the video. And then I try to cut into it, and I can't. It's like, this thing's been in here for like 8 hours, and I can't cut into it, right? And because I had these actually bear claw shredders, and I'm trying to shred this, and it wouldn't shred because it was raw, right? And then there was a part though, like on the edge that was kind of toasty. And so I started slicing that kind of like, they do in the Greek restaurants, and it's people, and I'm like, oh, what's wrong? It's hot. They're like, no, it tastes terrible. And so pretty much in 2016, I ruined Nochebuena, right? Ruined it. And you know why I ruined it? Because I wanted to do it my way. I abandoned the way that worked. I abandoned the recipe. I abandoned the guidelines and said, you know what? I'm a professional now. Like, I cook all kinds of meat. For the last couple of years, my pork butt, everybody thought I bought it from like a really good restaurant. And this year, I'm going to say, I'm not going to do my friend's recipe. I'm going to do my recipe. I'm not going to cook it at 450 degrees in the oven. I'm going to cook it at 200 degrees or in my smoker, and I'll just double the time, right? I just, came up with some random, and it didn't work. And as I thought of this thing, and, I threw away the last leftovers of pork yesterday as my wife made me clean the fridge. And I'm like, you know what? Our lives are like that a lot, especially in this time of year. We make all these commitments. We write them down, and a little bit of time goes by, and what do? We abandon the commitments that we made. We abandon the thing that works because we're like, oh, I've been doing it for so long. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to stop following the recipe. I'm going to stop following the guidelines. I'm going to stop doing what is right, and I'm going to do what I want, right? I'm going to do it my way. Anybody ever thought that? When someone tells you, hey, but está poniendo mucho sal. I don't like those people when they come to my house. You're putting too much salt. Oh, ah. Like when I start cooking and my wife comes into the kitchen, I'm like, I need some privacy. Like, she could walk into the bathroom if I'm in the bathroom, but if I'm cooking, I need privacy because I feel like I'm being judged, right? Too much salt, too much pepper. But if she doesn't see it, it's delicious. If she sees me preparing the churrasco, she's like, you put too much pepper. I'm like, I put the same amount of pepper that I always put. She's like, how do you know if you don't do recipes? I'm like, because I cook with my heart, right? And my heart feels the same way, right? And it tastes the same way. But that's usually how we approach life. We don't want people to see when we're doing things our way, when we're doing things incorrectly. Have you ever walked into your kid's room and all of a sudden it's like, and I'm like, hey, what are you watching? Oh, I'm doing a Bible program, like I'm doing a devotional. I'm like, really? What book? And they always say the book of Mark. No, they don't, but that's pretty slick, right? But you walk into the room and it's like, what's going on? Because sometimes when we do things our way, we're embarrassed. We don't want people to know that we've deviated from what we've committed to. And so as we approach this new year, what can we do different in 2025 that we haven't done for the last 20 years, 15 years, 30 years, 40 years, for some of you 50 years? Every single year you have all these great ideas, and the year goes by and pretty much your New Year's resolution for this year look a lot like they did for the past 4, 5, 6 years. Because somewhere along the line we are like, I've been doing it for a month. Now I could just tweak it a little bit and, I'll get back to it, right? We convince ourselves that we have the power to fulfill the promises that many times we make to God, promises that we make to our family, promises that we make to ourselves. And so where can we go for answers? Where can we go to find the tools and the secrets to fulfilling the commitments that we make? It's obviously right in the Word of God. And there's an awesome story in Genesis 39 of a young man named Joseph. Young man named Joseph. He was the youngest son of Jacob. Jacob is, the father of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? And so Joseph is the youngest of his sons, called by God at an early age. His father showed favor towards him, which upset his other brothers, right? 11 other brothers hated him because dad loved him more, because he was the younger child, the son of his old age. And so this jealousy wasn't like some of the jealousy that we may have at times, like, oh my God, here she comes again, goody two shoes, or here he comes again, Mr. Know-it-all, right? For some of us, that's like the border of our jealousy, and we always have a smart remark to say, no, these guys wanted to kill him. That's how jealous they were. Didn't want to see him anymore, wanted to eliminate their brother. And one day these guys are out working, And here comes, preppy Joseph, dressed up in the best clothes he could find, coming to see his brothers, coming to pretty much tattletale because he came to see who was working, who wasn't working, who was really doing a good job, who was doing a bad job, so he could go tell daddy what was happening. Shows up, and the brother starts saying, oh, this is our chance. Let's kill him. I mean, it's crazy to even think about that brothers would want to kill their own brother. Then one of the older brothers is like, look, let's not kill him. Let's just put him in this hole in the ground. And they ended up selling him. Some merchants were coming by. They sold him. And when the big brother finds out about this is going to break our dad's heart. What are we going to do? And so then they came up with a great plan. Right? Let's tell our dad that an animal killed him. I mean, it just keeps getting worse. Right? They go to their dad, they get his clothes, they dip it in goat blood, and they tell their dad that his son, the son of his old age, the one who they said was his favorite, is now dead. He's sold into slavery, all right? Abandoned by your family, abandoned and hated by your brothers because God spoke to you and God called you. How many of us have been persecuted and looked down on and mistreated because of our faith? Because of, oh, now you're, a goody-two Christian, and oh, you can't do that anymore, and people mock us. Well, that's what happened to Joseph because God was speaking to him. There was even a time where his own parents, punished him because when he said what God was telling him, it's like, oh, so you're better than we are? And so Joseph is abandoned. He's about 16, 17 years old. You think your life is bad? 16, 17 years old, abandoned, sold into slavery, and when most people would curse God and abandon their commitments and promises, Joseph resolves to honor God no matter the cost. The story of Joseph teaches us the secret on how we can keep promises and how we can keep our New Year's resolution. And here's the first point for today. We need to be quick to keep our promises to God. We need to be quick to keep our promises to God. You see, Joseph's commitment to God, he was so committed to God. He was such a faithful guy that now he comes into Potiphar's house, right? And he moves up in rank super fast. You guys, who's Potiphar? Potiphar was in charge of the security of the king of Egypt, one of the most powerful men, right? Some believe that he was even in charge of the prison system. And so this is a man of war. This is a guy of high rank, of high respect, lives in a palace, and now gets this Jewish slave. And the guy's so good, so faithful, that now he becomes the second person in Potiphar's house, in charge of everything in his house. So when Potiphar's away taking care of the king, doing his security detail, whatever the case, he knew that his house was going to be fine because Joseph was there. We probably have people like that in our life. Man, if this person's there, I know everything is going to be okay. Joseph's faithfulness to God was rooted in his commitment to honor, even in difficult circumstances. He didn't waver. He wasn't pushed around. He wasn't tossed from side to side. And then what usually happens when we're trying to do the will of God, the devil's like, hey, the only reason your boy is obeying you is because look at him. He's living like a prince. He's living like a king. He's getting a good paycheck. He's living in a palace. That's why he obeys you. And temptation came in. Let me tell you, when things are going great, brace yourself, get closer to God, because the difficult days will be around the corner. And it shouldn't give us fear. It should strengthen us. Yeah, there's going to be difficulties in life. We all know it. There's going to be times when we're sick, times when things happen that we don't like. But if we're rooted in Christ, we're standing firm in Christ. Like we were just singing a little while ago, we have nothing to fear. And so here's Joseph on a beautiful day. Some of you know the story. Potiphar's not there. The weather was probably nice like it is today. Potiphar's wife is walking around her palace and she sees Joseph. And I promise you, it wasn't the first time that she saw him. I'm sure she's had her eye on him. This young teenage boy, virgin from Israel, a foreigner. Sometimes women like guys with an accent, nice accent, right? Because when we hear this story, It's like, oh, this story, yeah, she wanted him to come to her room. I promise it wasn't to clean under the bed. She didn't want him to organize her drawers, right? It wasn't like, hey, Joseph, can you reach that for me? I can't reach it. She wanted to get him in her bed. She grabs him by his clothes. And Joseph says, hey, I can't do this, right? And I need you also to picture that this wasn't like an ugly woman. She must have been one of the most beautiful women in Egypt. Rich general living in a very beautiful, rich country. He's going to get whatever. Yeah, I want that one, and yeah, that one back there, right? He picked her. And now Joseph is tempted. No one would have probably found out. This affair could have gone on forever. And look at what Joseph says in Genesis 39. He said, how then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? How could I do such a wicked thing and like hurt my boss, lose my job, like offend someone? Which all those things are also true. He said, how could I do such a wicked thing and sin against my God? Joseph understood that his integrity wasn't about his relationship with Potiphar. It was about a promise he made to God. In Ecclesiastes, it also says this: when you make a promise to God, keep it as quickly as possible. Keep it as quickly as possible. You see, Joseph's actions show that keeping promises to God, it's just not about words. It's about actually keeping it and doing what we said we were going to do. Imagine promising someone that you love them, telling if you're a man, telling a woman, hopefully, I love you, I'm going to be with you forever, there's no one else in my life. And then every couple days after work, you go to happy hour and you're flirting with everyone at the bar, right? Having inappropriate text messages with people that you shouldn't be texting. Sliding into his DMs or her DMs, right? It's just a DM, right? That's how a lot of the stories start nowadays. A lot of the people that sadly I have to sit with sometimes, it's like, oh, it was just a DM. It was just a like of a picture. And little by little, relationships start falling apart. What promises have you made to God? Have you committed to serving him? Maybe forgiving someone. You know what? I'm going to forgive this person. And you cried. You probably came up here. We prayed for you. We prayed for the person. And you left, and forgiveness never happened. Making a life change that never happened. We need to follow Joseph's example. And we need to start keeping promises without delay. Right? Because delayed obedience is disobedience. Fulfilling a promise, delaying it is like not fulfilling the promise. Our second point is this, is we need to run quickly from temptation. Run quickly from temptation. It's not a sin to be tempted. It's not even a sin to be around temptation. But we need to run from it. When Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Joseph, he didn't argue or rationalize. He didn't say, listen, I won't lie in bed with you, but if you come out here to the living room where everyone could see, I'll give you a massage. Is that a sin? I'll sing you a song. No, he ran. He ran so fast that she stayed with like half of his clothes. And now he's running in his like underwear, I guess, through the palace. Joseph understood that he needed to stay away from a tempting situation because it was going to lead him into trouble. Genesis 39 tells the stories. She caught him by his cloak and said, come to bed with me. But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. He didn't go to his room. He didn't go to another part of the house. He left the premises. He left the premises. For example, like one of the things that we've agreed to doing as a family starting tomorrow, because tomorrow is the beginning of the new year for some of these promises, is that, hey, we're going to eat a little healthier this year. And so you know what I need to run from? I need to run from this thing right here. Look. I can't even go on 49th Street, right? Today, I get off on the Palmetto and 49th Street every Sunday on my way to church, and I was on the light there on 16th. There's a Pollo Tropical there, there's a Chick-fil-A, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw the red eye. I'm like, you know what? I gotta say one last no. But I did say, you know what? Next Sunday, I can't come this way because it's gonna tempt me. I'm gonna be 7 days into my commitment, right? I got to stay away from that. That's why Timothy tells us in 1 Timothy 6:1, it says, run from all evil things. Joseph didn't trust his own strength, right? He that thinks that he may fall, be careful because you're going to fall, right? That's when people fall, not when they made the decision, is when they think, oh, I'm strong enough. I can do it. I can do it. I remember people were criticizing Vice President Pence because he wouldn't take meetings with women. He wouldn't go in cars with women. The Vice President of the United States of America wouldn't go in a car with a woman unless his wife was there. So his entire detail and all his close staff was all men because he said, the moment that I think that I can't fall, that's when I'm going to fall. Some of you may think that's extreme, but that's the decision he had to make for himself. And none of us know what's going on inside of him, right? And so for some of us, it's decisions like that. But instead, the way most people live their life is, how close can I get to the edge without falling, right? So imagine if I preached from here every single Sunday, 52 Sundays. 10 of them, I'm going to fall off this stage. Why? Because I'm super clumsy, right? I like to walk around and move around and I get spaced out and I'm like, because Jesus said he's going to lift you up, and boom, and Pastor Mark's going down, right? But that's how we live our life. Actually, I have proof of that. Check out this video.
Now we're going to go to new details about that young couple who may have died trying to take a photo at Yosemite. The young man's brother now says they had set up a camera to take a photo just moments before the fall. Amy is here with more. Good morning, Amy.
Hey, good morning, everyone. And the Bay Area couple described themselves as travel obsessed, keeping a photo blog called Holidays and Happily Ever Afters that detailed their adventures around the globe, and they even warned against taking dangerous selfies, asking, is our life just worth one photo?
This morning, we're learning the couple behind the daredevil videos like this. And picture-perfect moments like these may have fallen 800 feet to their deaths in Yosemite after trying to take a selfie.
Supposedly there's a crime scene up there, so I can't shoot from there.
Vishnu Viswanath with his wife Meenakshi were at picturesque Taft Point. His brother telling the Associated Press the couple had set up their tripod near the edge to take a selfie before tragically plummeting off the cliff.
Nothing seemed like anything was wrong or anything like that. It seemed like they were there doing what they love to do.
Just months ago, the couple posted this photo with the caption, "A lot of us, including yours truly, is a fan of daredevilry attempts of standing at the edge of cliffs and skyscrapers. But did you know that wind gusts can be fatal? Is our life just worth one photo?" Those may have been prophetic words, investigators examining whether wind could have been a factor in the fall. This photo, thought to be one of the last photos taken of Meenakshi, taken by a passerby near the spot believed to be where the couple fell to their death. Meenakshi seen here with her signature pink hair, but without her husband. Some people have commented that parts of the cliff lack safety railings, but some witnesses who were there that day say the couple fell from a spot with a railing. The trend of trying to snap the perfect selfie, no matter the risk, can have fatal consequences. According to one study, there have been 124 deaths in those under 24 as a result. Last month, a teen reportedly died trying to take a selfie at Nevada Fall, also in Yosemite. And over the summer, 3 vloggers from a popular YouTube channel died after one of them slipped into a waterfall and the other 2 fell trying to catch her.
And listen to this other.
Wow. And I left it to the end. This is not an isolated event. These are people that obviously days before were like, is our life worth one photo? We need to run from all evil things. We need to stop asking, how close can I get to sin without actually sinning? I was a youth pastor for 6 years, and this was a regular conversation that I would have. Like, how close can I get to sex without having sex? You know, is touching here okay? Is sitting on my lap okay? Is hugging okay? Is, clothes on okay? This is an adult service, by the way. Those of you that brought your kids, it's okay. You may have a longer conversation on the way home, right? And the question really is how close can I get to Jesus? Because if that's what we're worried about, we're not going to be asking stupid questions, because if Jesus is the center of our life and all we want to do is honor God and live for God and get closer to God, we would never think these questions. And when the devil tempts us, we have the answer. Why? Because we're focused on Christ. We're living for Christ. Our goal is not to make sure Potiphar doesn't find out. Our goal is to honor God. Our goal is to live for God, not how close can I get to sin? How long can I go without my parents finding out or getting in trouble? It's how close can I get to Jesus? And the problem is that we think we're strong enough. The problem is that instead of looking at God, we're looking at ourselves and our own strengths. And a lot of you are super strong. You're incredible believers. But never forget, the reason you're so strong and you're so successful is because God has been the one you've been focused on. The moment that you think that now, because for the last couple of years you made a good paleta and you've been smoking all kinds of meat in that smoker, and your friends keep telling you you're awesome, what they really want is eat free food. Let's just get down to it. Ivan, you're a great smoker, but I love when you cook for me, right? This guy cooks incredible pork. You may want to get to know him a little bit better. But I enjoy eating his food, right? And so I'm always, hey, Ivan, so when are you going to smoke again, And guys, it's not about you. It's about following the instructions that God gives us so that we can be free, so that we can enjoy life. That's why in Exodus chapter 20, God tells Moses, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven or above earth or on earth beneath or in the waters below. Don't put anything in front of me. And it's not just an image of a saint or of some weird African god or, Polynesian god or whatever it may be that people worship. It's also things. It's also people. We worship relationships. We worship status. We worship our jobs. We worship our cars. There's this guy in my neighborhood that worships his car. He kneels before it and wipes it several times a week, right? He wakes up in the morning, takes his shirt off, and takes the dew off of his car in the morning. My friends, you know why he does that? Because he's a worshiper. Because God created him to worship. He's just worshiping the wrong thing. You know how a lot of people, they wake up and pray in the morning and read their Bible. He wakes up in the morning and is like, man, look what I did. I'm sure that's what he's thinking. I never asked him, what are you thinking? Look how hard I worked. Maybe I wish my dad would have been able to see me when I bought this car, right? I can't wait to, because these are all great intentions. There's nothing wrong with, I'm going to give this car to my oldest son when he gets married or whatever, right? But that thing has become an idol. Career has become an idol. Wealth has become an idol. And that's why God tells us, don't worship anything on earth, below the earth, in the ocean, in the sky. And so our last point is this: we need to flee from modern day idolatry. I don't even have it on me. It's in my room in the back. But one of the things that people worship, our phones, our connectivity, our social media, our likes, our interactions. And we're looking at our God all day. And there's nothing wrong with it. I like my phone. I listen to music. I text people. I take pictures. I take video, right? But what happens when we lose? Oh my God, where's my phone? Oh yeah, right? We'll drive back home, miss work, get to work late, get in trouble because you left your phone. And when you're at work, you're not even supposed to be on your phone. But it's like, you know, my son, when he was really young, and he asked random questions, and we're driving, and he's like, Bobby, so you didn't have phones, you know, well, when you were growing up? I'm like, no, there weren't phones for a really long time. He's like, how did people drive? Think about it. You're not supposed to be on your phone when you're driving, yet everyone is. I almost had a cop hit me last night, right? Because dude was on his phone. Like, Miami Lakes, going down 87th, and I see this cop. I'm like, boy, is this guy drunk? It's like, is he playing? You know, sometimes cops like to play, right? And when I look, the dude's like, you know, it was at night, you know, probably a rookie on night shift texting his girlfriend or whatever. We need to flee from modern day idolatry. Joseph was faithful, and that faithfulness extended beyond Potiphar's house. Because you know what happened? He got arrested. Because Potiphar, not being a believer at the time, sees his wife, sees this handsome man. She tells him, he tried to rape me, goes to jail, curses God, starts worshiping false idols. No. His commitment to God grows even deeper, even in the prison, even in the worst place possible. And remember, Potiphar was in charge of the prison. What did you think? He gave him, like, you know, a wing with nice furniture, a view, great food? No, he probably put him in the worst place. He's like, you know that worst place where we put the animals and people to die? Chain him up right there. He tried to take my wife. He tried to rape my wife. And he was still faithful. And in the prison, became in charge of the prison. Then he gets promoted again, becomes the right hand of the king of Egypt. So no longer his security. Now he's the security's boss because he was faithful to God. See, life is going to take us through ups and downs, but if we're faithful to God, God will be faithful to us. In Genesis 41, it says, it is not I. God will give Pharaoh the answer that he desires. You see, because the Pharaoh had a dream. So he gets promoted because he interprets a dream. And he had the opportunity to take credit for interpreting the dream. Right? Still a prisoner. That could have been his ticket out. And he says, hey, it's not me, it's my God. I have nothing. It's because of God. And God blesses him again. And God blessed him again. You see, God wants to bless you this year, but we need to keep our promises to God. We need to run from temptation. Run quickly from temptation. And we need to flee from the modern day gods and idols in our life. And I would say, hey, why have 10, 20 things that you want to do this year and do none of them or do half of them, when maybe the one thing that we need to do this year is to get rid of those idols. It's to focus 100% on God and say, God, regardless of what the world may throw at me this year, I'm going to be faithful. I'm going to follow you. I'm still going to worship you because it's your breath in my lungs. It's not even my breath. And yet I'm using it to curse you. I'm using it to curse people. It's your breath in my lungs, so I'm just going to give it back to you. You're the one that gives me life, and so I'm just going to give it back to you. Because if you made it, you can preserve it and make it better. And so I'm going to invite you to stand up, and I'm going to invite the band to come out. And we're going to sing this song one more time. And as we sing it, just make it your prayer to God. Don't make it just one more time that you've sung this song. I want you to meditate. For some of you, maybe it's not even singing. It's just like looking at these words and being like, wow. It's true. You bring hope. You restore. You mend the broken hearts. Wow. And just let the Holy Spirit flow through you, talk to you, convict you, show you. Say, God, show me. Show me what it is that I need to surrender to you in this new year, so that everything else could just fall into place. You see, because that's what Joseph did. He committed himself to God and God's ways. And because of that, even when life was going bad, it would all turn back. In order, everything would fall back into place to a point when the world was dying. The world that Joseph lived in, people were dying. They had no food. God spoke to him again and told him, this is what you're going to do so that everyone doesn't die. And he obeys God and saves not just the world from dying of hunger, but saves the brothers that sold him into slavery, the ones that he should have hated, he should have murdered himself as payback. And according to the laws of the time, he had the right to do it. He had the authority to do it. He forgave them and saved them too. God can use you to do incredible things if you just trust him. With the little that you have, I don't have a lot. I have problems. I'm struggling with this. That's fine. Give him what you got. Right? Give him what you got, and he's going to do something beautiful with the mess that we present to him. He's going to put us back together. He's going to put the situation back